On today's show, what's on the line for the Dallas Mavericks in Game 4 of their Western Conference Final Series against the Golden State Warriors, and the Mavericks will win if. We'll try to answer all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs. Let's go.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. But the best way to help us grow is to comment below. Let us know what you think. Mavs win in Game 4. Let us know what you think about this series so far. Answer some of the questions that we're going to be asking in this show. Comment below. And joining me, as always, my co-host contributor at Mavs.com. The Game 4 fiend of the One More Thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to all the Warriors fans listening to this pod and commenting and
Collecting
everything.
our tears.
It really helps us grow the show, and it helps earn us money. So I really appreciate that to Warriors fans. I'm going to start off with a really hot take.
Oh,
Really, really, really hot.
The Mavs need to breathe. And
It's a must-win game for them.
wow, so hot.
There you go. I said it.
So
I said
hot.
it. Tonight's a must-win game. If they want a chance to win the title, if they want a chance to move forward, move past this round, they have to win tonight.
They believe. Yes, sir. Hell yeah. No one believe.
Do you believe? Yeah, everybody believes. All right, today we're going to get into, like I said, what's at stake for the Dallas Mavericks. The best moment of the series, Luka's best moment of the series so far. And then if the Mavs win, what has to happen? And then a couple more questions we'll get into today. But let's start with this. Is the Mavericks' reputation on the line for this Game 4? If they get swept, is it different than if it's the gentleman's sweep where it's, you get the one game and so then all of a sudden it's a 5-game series, you go back to Golden State for Game 6. Is that different than just straight up getting swept?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I was thinking about this question in the sense of, is there anything that could happen in this Game 4 that would drastically change your opinion or change the league's opinion on a certain player or like a coach or a team? And I don't think so. Like, I was trying to think of the extremes of, if Jalen Brunson went for, I guess if Brunson went for like 50 and, they won, it's like, whoa, Brunson put up a 50 ball in the playoffs. But even if he has a really good game, and we just saw him and Spencer have good games, but even if they had duds, I don't know if that's like changing a huge perspective on them. I think the only thing is like from a national, I don't think there's anything Luka could do for us or for like Mavs fans,
No,
like good or bad, that would change anything about him. I do think from like a national perspective, since it is such a big stage, like if he did have like a dud type of game in an elimination game to where it felt like, I'm just kind of like, let me head to Slovenia early type of thing. I think he would get some backlash on that, but I don't think it's still not changing any type of, like big takes about. We already have some dumb enough takes as it is out there on the map.
for sure. I'm personally offended at your use of the word duds over and over again because that's Jared Dudley. So we got to use a different word than duds.
If you needed some milk duds as you interviewed him the other day.
I should have. Hey, duds. Would you like some duds? I don't think that anything could change for Mavericks fans because you and I said this coming into this series. What would change? What would change for the Mavericks? What would change for the front office as we go into this Warriors series? Like, let's say they get swept. I think we even probably said that. Let's say they get swept. What happens? Well, we still know all the weaknesses of this team. I think the front office still knows all the weaknesses of this team and knows that this is not a title contending team right now. They have made their way, to the Western Conference Finals through good matchups and had a chance, but their margin of victory and margin of error was so small. We talked a lot about that yesterday against this Warriors team, and so far it's just gone the wrong direction for the Mavericks. Could anything change? Now, the national narratives will be all over the place, but if Luka does come out and have a bad game, not a dud, but a bad game, and even just a bad game for Luka, then all of a sudden his momentum is just going down, right? It's all kind of about momentum. It's all about who's trending. It's all about the momentum of a guy. Like, who's talking about Trae Young right now? Remember last year when Trae Young was in the Eastern Conference Finals and it was all like, well, I don't know, is Trae Young better than Luka? Is he better than some of these other young guys? And, what about that trade? And you start going back to that. But with this year, if Luka does have a bad game, maybe that takes the momentum down. Like the last couple of things that people will think about him is that dunk from Andrew Wiggins, right? that Luka even admitted was impressive. Is that the lasting memory of this series? Now, if he comes out, let's say he has like a 50-point game and goes out swinging, then all of a sudden maybe it swings and changes that, Luka is the guy that's just out there giving it his all and he's doing everything he can for this Mavericks team, which should have been the narrative in game 3 because he had 40 points and should have had a bunch of assists and all that. But I don't know. I think the Mavericks, their feelings probably change if they don't get a game. If they get swept, that probably impacts them. If we're just going to go away from national narratives and what we think about them, for the Mavericks themselves, I think they will take it more personally if they get swept than if they get a game or maybe even 2 in this series.
Yeah, I think I agree with that because I think most smart like national media people will zoom out really quick and say, "Oh, dang, it didn't expect him to get swept, but
didn't expect them to be here.
We didn't expect him to be here either." Of like, we all seen we all seen all the predictions, before the Suns series of everyone picking the Suns to beat the Mavs, and you understood it, 64 win, number 1 team in the West. So, and they beat that team. So. I mean, we've been saying it. It's already a successful season. Whenever their season is up, whether it's tonight, whether it's in 7 games, or whether it's in the finals, we'll say it's a success already. So, I don't think anything huge. My biggest thing is let's just not get hurt, type of thing.
Yeah, no big off-season like consuming injuries in this game.
yeah.
However many more games they play.
Yeah. At this point, because that's a sucky thing about any like big time injuries in the conference finals. I mean, even the playoffs, but going into the finals is if there's any big, injury, it lasts until all the way through next season. But
coming up, can the Mavericks pull off history? What would it take for the Mavericks to actually pull off history, to come back from down 0-3? Because no team has ever done it before. But no team had ever come back from down 3-1. And it's happened a couple times over the last couple of years. So what would it take for the Mavericks to do that? We'll talk about that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy for you. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. It's super easy. You can go ahead, head to Prize Picks, and you just pick the over-under for the amount of times that Patrick Mahomes will be at Mavericks games. No, you pick points, it's rebounds, it's steals, it's all kinds of stuff like that you can pick. They're super easy. And then you go ahead to the bottom, and it says, all right, you want this, and this. Luka Doncic points in this game, in game 4, 33.5. Oh, big over. Steph Curry, 27.5 points. I'm going over on that one too. Over on both of their points. I put down $20. I win 60. I put down $100. I can win $300 at Prize Picks. And right now you can check out the offer that they have for our listeners, where you can get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point, but you must use the promo code NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer. Promo code NBA, $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. Prize Picks, check it out and win the prize. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Make sure you check out the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast and YouTube channel. Rafael Barlow is our guy. He's in DFW right now, scouting the best. He's there talking to agents, having interviews. Richard Statement is AKA Mavs Draft on Twitter. Great stuff from them. Big boards and everything. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. All right, Isaac Harris. History would have to be pulled off for the Mavericks to come back and win this series. Not to win a couple games, not to win 2 games, or even force a game 7. I think that's happened before. A game 7's been forced when a team was down 0-3. But no team has ever come back and won. What would have to happen for the Mavericks to win this series?
Well, when you're playing a team that's, lost a 3-1 series, so that could play in your favor if you do, win a couple games. It could possibly get into their head, maybe, if we're just trying to be optimistic here. But no, I mean, I think a couple of the obvious things is, the role players that have to start hitting their threes.
For sure.
I wrote down something just off the top of my head. I didn't do any stats on this to back this up of, this would mean win or not, or how many times this has happened. But I want Dorian and Reggie to combine for more points than Dinwiddie.
Interesting.
And I think once again, it kind of goes with like the 3-point attempts for Dorian and those guys of like, if those two guys are scoring more points than Dinwiddie, then that shows me that like Lukas tallying up the assists, the offense is running smoothly. Like they're playing 45. They're going to, Dorian and Reggie are both going to play over 40 minutes, tonight. So if they can combine for more points than Dinwiddie, in this games moving forward, if they can win tonight, then I think that is a good recipe for them to pull off something.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think it does just go back to the role players. It's everything that we said yesterday, I think in the third segment of yesterday's show, talking about, well, if the margin of victory is so small, the margin of error for this Mavericks team, what has to happen? What has to happen for the Mavericks to win games? And it's the role players just hitting threes, right? Bullock is shooting 33% in this series, which is not bad, but that means that he's had games where he shot well, and then he's had 2 games where he shot terribly. Dinwiddie's actually shooting 36%. Dorian is shooting 43%, but he's only taken 14 threes in this series. Kleber is shooting 14% from 3. He's only taken 14 in this series so far. Those 3 guys specifically just have to start going off. Like, they just have to start going off the way that we saw them go off in the Jazz series, some of the Mavs, some of the Suns series against the Mavs. Like, those guys absolutely have to go off. And then it's been the offense, right? Like, it's been the offense in game 1 and game 3 that's been such a big problem. And so I think the threes just have to start coming down at a historic rate. And then, I don't know, you start hitting threes, and then all of a sudden it seems like when this team hits threes, the rest of their game comes together. And if they don't get destroyed in the third quarter like they did in game 2, then this series could be a little different. But so far, this Warriors team has been way too good, way out talenting the Mavs, and they've been here before, and it's all coming together for them.
You mentioned Maxi. It's an understatement to say Maxi's struggled in this series, but the fall off from the past 2 series. The past 2 series, Maxi has averaged 10 points a game. 3-point percentage in Utah series, he shot at 51%, 52% basically. Last series, he shot at 46%. First 2 series, field goal percentage, 54% and 55%. This series, he's shooting 14% from the field, 14% from the 3-point line, and averaging 2 points in the series.
Yikes.
He has a total of 6 points after 3 games. Like, that's just a huge, drastic drop off for one of your key rotation pieces in that.
Who has more points than Maxi in this series so far?
Trey Burke.
7 points. Maxi has 6.
I think for them to pull off history, I think we would need 1 or 2 supernova Luka games. We would need we'd need like a 50 ball possibly from a Luka that, if the guys are not hitting their threes, like normal, then you might have to have a supernova Luka game. And, could that happen in game 4? Could Luka come out and get 2 quick fouls on Wiggins early on, have a 15-point first quarter, and then set the tone? And then we're looking up in the fourth quarter and, he has 48. He's knocking down a couple free throws to hit 50, and the Mavericks, take game 4. That could be a recipe for it. And so, yeah.
The thing is, like, we've seen him go off for 40 two games in a row now. It's the assist to me. So to me, it's like still scores 40, but has like 15 assists. That's him going off, I think, in a way that changes it. Unless he has like a 20-point quarter. That's yeah. I think what going off for Luka could mean is if it's in the fourth quarter, it's in a third quarter where they need to change the momentum. He goes off for a quarter like that. We've seen him go off for quarters like that where he just dominates in his own way. And he would have to have that. He would have to have that at least, 4 more times to do something like that to win this series. Agreed?
Agreed.
Awesome. What's the stat that you've watched the most during this series? We talk a lot about the role players' 3-point percentage, but what's a stat that you've been monitoring?
So I've been watching the Steph versus Luka matchup, and in kind of contrasting that with the rest of the guys. If you want to just say, hey, if you want to say Luka, Steph, you cancel each other out, which they haven't. So Steph's averaging 28, 8, and 8 on the series with a total of, if we just do points, total of 84 points on the series. Luka's averaging 34, 7, and 5, total of 102 points. So doing the subtraction on that of total points for both teams through 3 games, the Warriors have 263 points. The Mavs have 202 points. If you take away Luka and Steph's points, That's a difference. That's a difference of 61 points that non-Curry Warriors have outscored non-Luka Mavs.
Wow.
That's a lot of points. 61 points.
That should get you 3 wins.
Yeah, after 3 games, that's a lot of points in that. And even just like breaking now, looking at like points per big game and looking after Steph and Luka, it's wild that we've talked about the series that Wiggins has had, but Wiggins is their second leading scorer in this series, and he's averaging right around. Brunson's averaging 20, Wiggins averaging 21. So let's just say, all right, Wiggins, Brunson, you equal each other out, which that's a problem in itself. If Wiggins is equal out your second best player in Jalen Brunson,
right.
It's the next 4 guys after that. Then the Warriors have Poole, Clay, Looney, and Draymond compared to Dinwiddie, Bullock, Dorian, and Maxi. And like, just look at the difference in the style of plays in those guys of like Clay, Poole, even Draymond in a sense can put the ball on the floor. And, especially Clay and Poole can, they could drive and kick. They can kind of create for themselves a little bit. They can do, Clay's doing the little 1 foot, a fadeaway Dirk fade there in the paint and stuff. When you look at the other guys on the other side, Maxi, Dorian, and Bullock, they're very defined roles. Like stand in the corner, stand on the wing, catch and shoot threes. They're not really driving and kicking stuff. So I think you can look at it just a breakdown. That's just something I'm watching is the Mavs Warriors outside of Steph and Luka. How much are the Mavs losing that battle? And they're losing it by 61 points right now.
Well, you just see the difference between those two teams just in that right now. Like they have the Warriors have so many more players that can do more off the dribble, that can do more in space, that can do more one-on-one, that can do more however you want to put it. And that's how their offense is dictated. They can move around. They can, whenever we talk about, the Mavs need more ball movement. The Mavs need more ball movement. Well, they get ball movement. Everybody stands in one spot and they swing it around. And a couple players drive. Maybe it's Dinwiddie drives. Maybe it's Luka drives. Maybe it's Brunson drives and kicks. For the Warriors, it's like, well, this guy's coming off a back screen and this guy's doing this and this guy's coming around a curl and this guy's cutting and this guy is doing this because they can't get stuck in spots. The Mavericks players can get stuck in spots. Bullock can get stuck in spots on the floor where all of a sudden you give him the ball at like 20 feet and there's one guy in front of him. What's he going to do, right? And so is he going to take the jumper? He's taken a couple mid-range jumpers, or we've seen him work on them, and we've seen him do it in the regular season, but I don't know if he's pulling up from right there all the time. Yeah. I don't know if Dorian's pulling up from 20 all the time. And so it limits the landscape or the like geography on the court where the Mavericks can actually operate. And the Warriors don't have that because they have guys that can just run all over the place, and Poole can hit from anywhere, and Clay can hit from anywhere, and Curry can hit from anywhere. And for the Mavericks, it's just Brunson, Luka, and then Dinwiddie on some nights. But Dinwiddie doesn't even have like the mid-range stuff. He's like at the basket or a step back 3 that has gone in at a rate that I did not expect in this.
And he's actually not, Dinwiddie hasn't had the worst of series, like he's actually had, a decent series there. He's averaging what on the series, Dinwiddie's averaging 15 points a game. He's the 3rd leading scorer. And I mean, you would wish that, that was a little bit, higher, but
he had that really bad game 2, but game 3, he had 26 points. That was good. 17 points in game 1.
37% from 3 in a series.
Yeah, so it hasn't been a bad series for him. It has been up and down, but you kind of expect that from him.
Yeah. What's your stat?
My stat, I've been wanting to look at the stat that you just mentioned between Wiggins and Brunson. It's simply just Brunson's like points. Where Brunson is delivering in this series so far, right? He had 14 points in game 1, not great, but he had 31 in game 2, and then he had 20 in game 3. We talk a lot about Mavericks need another guy to create. The Mavericks need another guy to get their own shot. Well, Brunson's kind of doing that. What other player, like what would the second all-star player be doing in this series? And is that really as big of a problem as we've been talking about, or there are different problems the Mavericks can address? Because Brunson has scored 30, he scored 20, and the Mavericks still lost those games like pretty handily.
Well, I would want to dive a little bit deeper into how Brunson got some of those points. One of those games that 31 point game, he hit 4 threes in that game. How many of those, or 5 threes in that game? How many of those were catch and shoot threes based off Luka's creation?
Yeah, true.
So how much of these points are based off him actually creating himself, getting to the paint? Because that's what we've talked about. They've really, really needed a guy, it's so good, all-star level good, that can carry the offense, create on his own completely. But I would need to dive into Brunson's.
Well, and Brunson had 20 of those 31 in the first half of game 2. So that's a lot. That's a big difference. You need somebody to step up in the second half, and they haven't had that so far. But yeah, it's just Brunson, and Brunson's scoring. And I'm still, like, let's say they do pull off a trade this offseason. Let's say they do pull off a trade where it's, they get somebody, a Beal or whoever like that. What does Brunson do then? Does Brunson just go back to being the sixth man? Like they're paying $25 million a year or something for a sixth man type role?
Well, they're not getting, I don't think they're getting anybody substantial without Brunson being involved.
So yeah, then that's your answer, right?
Unless it's like a Rudy Gobert or something like that. Like it's a big
diminished asset or something.
Yeah. I don't feel weird calling him a diminished asset, but
sorry.
But I see what you're saying. Like, I don't know what Rudy Gobert's
Tower.
His trade value is
the Baguette Biombo. Would you rather a different nickname for him?
Oh man.
Coming up, let's get into the moment so far the series for Luka and for the Mavericks team. And if the Mavericks lose, this playoff run will be remembered by what? We'll talk about that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models for cars, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why would you choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts that you can get and have to wait for at a chain store or a car dealership when you can get them shipped to your house and they're cheaper as well? Honda Odyssey fuel pump at a chain store, $353. From Rock Auto, only $216. That's saving you a bunch of money that you could spend on like a half of a Mavericks ticket in the upper bowl for the Western Conference Finals. RockAuto.com prices are reliably low for every single customer. They have everything you can need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpets. Go explore their easy-to-use website today. Find the solutions for your auto part needs. Go to RockAuto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you when you get something. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. All right, Isaac Harris. The moment of the series so far. Now, they've lost 3 games. There have not been a ton of incredible moments for the Mavericks in this series, but is there a Luka moment or a moment that stands out to you as like the moment of the series so far?
Mine's not a single play, but I do think the moment of the series so far is the third quarter of game 2. And that, if they do lose tonight, that I think that's what we'll all look back on. I think that's what the team will look back on and be like, giving up the 19-point lead, getting outscored by 23 points in that second half, putting up 13 points in that third quarter. And you were up by 19 with the chance to even the series and come back to Dallas 1-1, and still one in Golden State, a team that has yet to lose at home this postseason in the Warriors. And, you gave that up. And it was, is that a moment where we look back on and be like, oh, that was the moment they sunk their chance there. So I think for me right now, that's the moment of the series.
Yeah, that third quarter in game 2 was wild. They were 2 of 11 from 3. It's like that's been their whole problem this whole series, this whole playoffs is they don't hit threes and then everything else goes away with it. The defense goes away, the effort, the intensity, their offense just completely tanks, and it seems like that's what it's been. But Draymond got in foul trouble that during that third quarter. There's just a lot of stuff that was going on in that was like, okay, like Draymond picked up his 5th foul with 6 minutes left in that third quarter, and you said, okay, here's a moment. The Mavericks could come back. Like their momentum is completely gone, but let's see if they can get something back. And they just couldn't, right? They just couldn't get anything back. They only scored 13 points in that quarter. We're really going to look back at that one as one that really got away, because I think it would change if the Mavericks had won game 2. They were up, like you said, 19 in that game. Wouldn't it change the whole Mavericks perspective and the whole Mavericks attempt at, or the whole Mavericks like approach to game 3 and 4, their confidence level, especially for a team that's inexperienced, can't say young anymore, I guess, but an experienced team? Wouldn't they come in with way more confidence, and maybe it changes a lot for them, and then maybe it's, tied 2-2 at the end of this instead of, it could be 3-1.
And you know what it would change too? It would have changed a little bit of the crowd. I think there's a difference. For sure. There's a big difference and buzz in the arena when, you have your first home game of the series and you're down 0-2, to where, a lot of the if you want to say casual fans, if they got to come to the game because the tickets are so high, A lot of people were talking about after the game. We saw Jason Gallagher, seen different people tweeting about, the kind of lackluster crowd performance in the AAC the other night. And it's like, I do think, yes, it could have been louder. It could have been rowdier. It could have been a lot more fun in the crowd, but also, but also Dallas, the Mavs didn't, really energize them a lot with their play and being down 0-2. So what would a crowd have been like if it was 1-1 and you're like, ooh, there's blood in the water? The fans, the fans smell that too. So,
well, what was the difference between the game 3 and then game 6 for the Mavericks against the Suns, right? There was just such a different crowd.
Yeah.
When the Mavericks all of a sudden, they're down 0-2 to the Suns team. That game 2 ended in such a bad fashion that it just seemed like this Mavericks team had no shot to come back. Then all of a sudden they win game 3, they win game 4. The crowd is just building momentum. They go back and they win game, or they lose that next game. But then all of a sudden, there's hope here. If they tie this, they go to a game 7. Game 6 was wild, I thought. Game 6 was an incredible crowd in the AAC. And so I think the crowd does feed off of that. The moment for me is going to be Chuck riding the horse.
Oh my gosh.
Charles Barkley riding a horse down the AAC Plaza, down Victory Plaza. Are we going to look back at this and think that Chuck cursed the Mavericks?
No.
Because I might.
No.
I might look back at it. We might call that.
If Reggie has the Warriors, Chuck can have the Mavs. Fandom is okay.
Oh my gosh, Reggie just has any shooting guard that reminds him of himself. He's like, anybody that doesn't look like me. Luka, thick boy. No, that doesn't look like me at all. So I'm not for that. But yeah, Charles Barkley picking the Mavericks is never a good sign. Never a good sign at all. Anytime he picked the Suns in the Suns series, the Mavericks won that game. And so that'll be a moment to look back. But that was just an incredible moment as a fan. I was standing out there and just within everybody, I had my phone out and I was recording just like a million other people were. But to see him just walk down Victory Plaza on a horse and get up there and see Shaq cracking up. That was just a cool moment for the Mavericks. The Mavericks haven't been in the Western Conference Finals since 2011. I mean, it's been a long time for this team. And so that was an incredible moment. Cool. It's not going to be a moment where you look back and say, oh, that was, incredible series, but it's a cool moment for Mavs fans.
Well, it's cool to see the whole TNT setup in Victory Park there. It's man, you don't get to see this every home Mavs game and see all those guys and, pregame and courtside. I got to first time I ever got to meet Shaq and shake his hand and just say a few words to him and just standing next to him. It's your guy.
Shaq. Right?
But literally for an hour before the game the other night, I just stood next to him and his, a couple of his guys and seeing player after player, different media people. And I got to see kind of up close, how beloved and why he's loved so much by so many people, because he's such a nice dude to everybody. And I was like, man, that's really cool to see why everybody likes this guy.
Yeah. That guy can't walk 5 feet without getting stopped for something.
But no, yeah, I think, if you want to do Luka moment of the series so far, obviously when you're down 0-3, there's not any, there's not a ton of great moments, but the buzzer beater there in the first half at home, a couple dribble moves before that was huge. The crowd erupted. That was a lot of fun. The logo shot there in Golden State, at the end of the second quarter, and then the trash talking to the fan on the front row, and we were watching security, talk to the fan stuff. So it's just, there's a couple moments like that, but you can't really relish in a lot of it when you're 0-3.
It's maybe not a moment, but maybe the moment when you and I were in San Francisco and we were in the, Draymond Green's press conference between game 1 and 2, and the way that Draymond talked about Luka, and then seeing him in game 3 when he was just being wild and screaming at everybody and getting mad at Mavs players, and he was at half court screaming at Tim Hardaway Jr., screaming at Sterling Brown, and just mad. And then after that timeout, he comes back out there and hugs Luka, and they go real close to each other, and he patted him on the back and just seemed like they were at terms at that point. To see the respect that Draymond Green has for Luka was a moment to me, or something in this series, because he's not a guy that goes out there and just gives respect to anybody, right? It kind of has to be earned with him. And Steph and Clay have earned it, and now I think Wiggins has probably earned it.
Even Steph respects the heck out of Luka too. Even the funny stuff with the shimmy and stuff that's he was talking about post game and yesterday and stuff. But yeah, I mean they respect the heck out of Luka. It looked like in that moment Luka was clearing up, it was a little tussled there. I don't think they showed it on the broadcast.
Yeah,
that,
they didn't.
JTA, Toscano Anderson said something to Luka, and they, jawed back and forth. Then Draymond was yelling and all this stuff. And it looked like coming out of that timeout, Luka was very adamant to tell Draymond and Steph, like, hey, this is what kind of happened. And you could see Draymond and Steph like, all right, like it's like they kind of understood, like, oh, that's what happened type of thing. So, I saw like how's the highlights or somebody tweeted out like, oh, Luka, Draymond, Steph beef and all this stuff. I'm like, not
there's
really.
There's not. It's not like the Suns guys.
Something we don't know about, but
the Suns guys were like coming at Luka,
yeah,
right? I mean, it's just been so different night and day. And you kind of see like what it takes to be a champion, to respect your opponent. And the Suns did not respect their opponent, right? You can see from their fans. Now the Warriors fans,
well, you got class on that side. I mean,
no, the Warriors fans don't respect the Mavericks, but they're not taking cues from their team because the Warriors have been very respectful of the Mavericks. And it's just been cool to see that specifically Draymond with Luka. That's been incredible to see.
Can I ask you one last question before we go? If the Mavs do lose tonight, because obviously if they win and they keep on going, like, we'll remember the Western Conference Finals of like, oh my gosh, they came back from 3-0, and I mean everybody will remember that for the history of the game.
That'd be great. I'm down for that that timeline.
But if they lose and the season's over, how will Mavs fans remember this season? Yeah. And how, not just the season, let me rephrase it. How will they remember this playoff run, the 2022 playoff run?
I think they'll look back. It'll take a little time because there'll just be such, it was right there. I mean, we were right there. I mean, looking at the Celtics Heat series right now, looking at all the guys that have been injured, right? It's like Robert Williams is hurt, Marcus Smart is hurt, and then Butler is hurt, and like Lowry is hurt, and there's just all this injury stuff going back and forth. It's like it's right there that title could be right there for them, but they're ahead of it. So it's going to take a couple of days, maybe weeks, for this fan base to look back at this moment and say, dang, that was super fun. Remember that Game 7 win, and we all went nuts. Remember when Locked On Mavs was drinking and going insane on the on Locked On Mavs. But they'll have moments like that and think back to, this was an incredible run, and this was the start of something. Because this franchise and front office, you heard Jason Kidd after Game 3, like, they did not expect to be here. Nobody expected them to be here. They believed they could win and have good moments, but I don't think they expected to be in the Western Conference Finals so early. There's still work for them to be done. And the comments from Nico Harrison, especially to you, and when we interviewed him, and then the other comments we've heard have proven that they still think that there's work to be done, and I think that's going to give fans enough of an ease that this franchise doesn't look at this run and say, oh, okay, well, we don't have to make any moves. We were right there. Let's just, make one little tweak, and that's all we have to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you want to look at it positive, if they do lose and saying, all right, if they did get swept, it's like, all right, well, that is a reminder that you're not just a little tweak away. Like, this is a style. This is a team that's going to be there. And I think you have different options coming out of the playoffs of, all right, well, will you remember it as them basically detonating the Jazz and blowing that team up? Will you remember it as
it depends on what happens.
Getting swept by the Warriors in the conference finals? Will you remember it as, and then I agree with you. I think when this is all said and done, if they do lose this series at some point, I think it would be the Phoenix series. I think once time is removed from it, we'll always look back at that Phoenix series, Game 7 on the road, blowing them out, and like just the embarrassment of all that for the Suns. So anyway, that's a lot of stuff there. Game 4 tonight. If you have tickets, go to the game. Don't be trying to sell them off to Warriors fans. I've been kind of worried about this, that, Mavs fans like, hey, I got tickets, I'm just going to sell them. And then there's going to be a lot of Warriors fans in there. Let's pack the place out. Let's make the Mavs proud to play at home. And whether it's their last game in there or not, let's show them that, hey, this crowd is real. And
to be proud of this Mavericks team, right? Like we've said, after the Jazz series, everything else has been gravy, has been frosting, has been whatever, sprinkles, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, still been a successful season for sure for this Mavericks team. And we'll be with you 5 days a week, continuing on all through the offseason or through the rest of the series, however, whatever comes first, I guess. So there you go, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Now go make your second listen, Locked On NBA, experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA Monday through Friday in 30 minutes, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.